to plug this in. So there's good news and bad news, right? There's good news and bad news. Um, hope everybody is getting ready for the storm. If you live in the wake of the storm, which is a lot of people, I bought two sleds just in case we wanted to have a little fun in the storm. Um, wow. Okay, so let's see. We are doing really well, but there's good news and bad news. And so I want to get started and make sure that I'm on. Looks like I'm on. Thank you. And I'm coming on pretty late, burning the midnight oil. And I don't mean to do that. I want to come on really early sometimes, but the messages we're, reaching a lot of people right now. We're reaching millions. Um, Absolutely millions. I think in the last 30 days, 28 days, it was over 6 million people. So we're reaching millions of people, and that's thanks to you. Thanks to you for sharing. We really, really appreciate it. This is day 2002. I believe it's 2002. Um, and so much information is coming in. We got to wrap our heads around it all. And a lot of people are coming forward because we're earning their trust. And if I don't get back to you, it's not because I don't care. It's not because we're not interested. We are very interested. It's because we're reaching a lot of people and a lot of information is coming in right now. And of course, our number one goal, besides glorifying God in everything that we do, and I really mean that, I'm very sincere with that. That's our number one goal, is to repatriate our sons' remains because we know that they have them and that we know that they are in Mexico and their partial remains. We know that also. Um, and we want our son. We want our son. And, um, and of course, we want accountability for what they did to our son. And this goes to the title of today, so we can get started because this is about an evil cult, right? You know that. This is about an evil cult. And there's no other way to put it to you. That's the bad news. This is about an evil cult, and that's the facts and the evidence. Absolutely, it's crying out from the stones that this is about an evil cult. So, and many, and I think, you know, many. Well, let's get started. Day 2002, since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room on Fort Bliss and forced downstairs to the arms room, which is a soundproof room, um, where his life was taken. And his body then was stolen off of Fort Bliss and trafficked to Mexico. Evidence indicates there's a huge possibility that his organs were also taken, were harvested. Um, Evidence indicates very strongly that they profited off of Richard's remains, okay, in many different ways. In many different ways. So, this is, you know, this is about an evil cult. And it has infiltrated into our country, into other countries. If you're a theologian, you absolutely know this. Um, these warnings and everything. But the evidence is so overwhelming that I have to come out and say it. Um, that's the bad news. That's the bad news that I want to talk about. The good news is that we received a phone call today that congratulated us for our post. And it's not a post that has gone really viral. It has thousands of views, right? Thousands of views. I haven't looked at the total number right before I came on. I should have done that. Um, so it's not the most popular post, um, but it is a very, very important post. And what was the phone call about? Congratulating us for absolutely breaking the Walmart case, confirming, corroborating what many investigators, multiple investigators, have already confirmed that the Walmart crime scene was staged. That the Walmart crime scene was staged. That the shooting of Alexander Gerhard Hofmann was a professional hit execution that was done by somebody else besides Patsy. Okay? It was done by somebody else besides Patsy. And our post absolutely proved that it was already done before he even entered the Walmart. Also, the prior pictures of Patsy being in the Walmart earlier that day shows many people around him coming into the entrance, being in the McDonald's. When he is coming in after Alexander is laying on the floor there at the west entrance, he is it's empty, right? It's empty. The Walmart is empty. The entrance is empty. Um, so this is a staged shot. Absolutely. And I'm not saying that other people were not killed, were not injured. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the crime scene was staged, was tampered with and staged, and that Patsy was not a lone shooter. And this is not me saying it. I'm just the conduit, right? I'm just from the evidence to you. I'm the mouthpiece. And I'm saying to you that the evidence confirms that Patsy came in after Alexander was already down, which confirms that there were multiple shooters, not a lone wolf. Also, that the narrative that they, in one day, they already had the false narrative pre uh, pre-scripted, right? That this would be an attack on President Trump because Beto O'Rourke was running as his opponent, was running for president of the United States, and his big competition was President Trump. This script was pre pre-drafted before this whole thing went down because the evidence shows that within hours they had the lone wolf, the white supremacist, Trump is at fault. It's Trump's rhetoric. And who was pushing that? It was the mayor, DeMargo, El Paso Mayor DeMargo. It was Beto O'Rourke, and it was Veronica Escobar. Okay. Um, and those that are on their teams and supporting it. They were all pushing this false, pre-scripted narrative to it was a political, but yet it was a a an attack on President Trump because he had John of God arrested down in Brazil. He had El Chapo arrested. He had many people. He was really fighting. Remember, John of God, who was pushed by Oprah, who Oprah endorsed Beto O'Rourke. Okay. I didn't make that up. I didn't, pull it out of a hat or whatever. These are all facts that happened. That Oprah was pushing this John of God cult leader, that Oprah was pushing Beto O'Rourke, that and that both were up to no good because don't forget, I've been reporting on it. This fact that La Diabla, who was running, and she was arrested recently, right, for running I'm all tense because this is so evil, right? This is so evil what I'm talking about because it's a cult, right? It's a cult. Um, because La Diabla was training these 16, 17-year-old girls to perform illegal C-sections on pregnant young women that they had targeted and promised jobs to and everything. And they wanted their babies and they wanted their organs. And these women ended up not being alive. Okay, not being alive. Um, if the babies survived these illegal C-sections, then they were sold to the homosexual community in the United States. This is a black market operation. This, what happened down in Brazil, um, yeah, it's just so awful. It's so awful. And I will tell you that in Ireland, something happened while we were living in Ireland um, that made me understand that there is satanic worship going on. This is years ago. And this is also during the time of the Hampstead children. I don't know if you know about the Hampstead children, but I do because I was living in Ireland and this happened in London at Christ Church. And there's a lot of controversy around that case um, about the children's witness testimony. It is so disturbing. It is so evil. Um, and I wish that I could just hide that, just take it out of my brain, that whole that whole case, just take it out of my brain. But reading through um, Oprah's connection with John of God and what he was accused of and then convicted of and is now since 2025, right, in prison, and there's still some appeals going. But this all happened, he was arrested in 2018, November of 2018, so late in that year, 2018. So this has been going on, and he has gotten a lot of protection, right? something that's not afforded to our volunteer sons and daughters, right? Like Richard was begging to be transferred, to be deployed, to get um, out of his unit and out of El Paso, and being a whistleblower and being under whistleblower protection, and he was not protected. Okay, he was absolutely retaliated against all the way up through his chain of command that led, and even into the intelligence community, because the FBI, the assistant special agent in charge, who has been there longer than most of the well, longer than just about all of the special agent in charge, but Connell Wetton is the one that leaked our son's name to the cartel, and cartel meaning the military connected cartel that retaliated, that led to our son's brutal murder. And so, you know, this is really a cult, y'all. It really is a very evil cult, because it connects this pipeline to you remember how I would say that the breach in security on Fort Bliss was on purpose. And it is. It's on purpose. And the breach of security in the barracks is on purpose. Absolutely. And this is the micro breach of security, right? Because what they want to do is compromise the soldiers so that they can traffic their fuel. You know, they can bring in a 14-year-old girl or maybe younger into the barracks and film it and compromise them, and maybe even with some drugs, but really it's with the girls, and sexual. It's sexual. And then they, if they say, wait a minute, I thought we had 5,000 weapons and you have here only 30. Oh, shut up. Weren't you the one with that young girl? Right? Oh, I thought we had 1,000 gallons of fuel in here. Now we only have 30. Oh, shut up. Weren't you with that young girl? Um, and, yesterday we received a confession from a soldier that absolutely was heart wrenching, but corroborated everything I'm saying right now. And we have a mountain of um, those kind of confessions, and it is moving. It really, and thank you so much to each and every one of them. The more, the better. The bigger the mountain, the better. We need the biggest mountain of evidence, because this is about an evil cult, and when you're dealing with something like that, um, you have these cult members um, infiltrated into our society, into our agencies, into our organizations, into our institutions, and their loyalty is to that evil cult. And so how do you preserve freedom, but yet destroy an evil cult? How do you do that? How do you hold them accountable, um, and preserve freedom? It requires a lot of evidence, a lot of evidence. So to make one hell of an argument against the cult. So, and I'm talking about a legal argument, right? A legal argument, because we do want to do things legally by the law, and um, because it's not ours to avenge. We can't, eh, as God says, but we have to establish justice. So it is really a a just um, a work of self-control, because you have to control your own anger, and you have to do a lot of work to identify the crimes, document the crimes, and file the crimes. And so when people say, oh gosh, it's taking so long, and I'm like, you know what? I think 5.5 years, um, it's just been a miracle. It's just been a miracle that we have been able to stay steadfast and identify all of these crimes, document them, and file them. And here we are at this huge pipeline of a pipeline that only an evil cult would require. It's a pipeline that only an evil cult would require. So the pipeline and everything about it is the evidence that this is all about an evil cult. Because nobody else would require this. And just like they use these young girls or other things to compromise our volunteer sons and daughters in the military and the barracks, in the business world, in the political world, it, they use the evil pipeline products, and I'm talking about babies, as initiation, as a gate, as a compromise, um, as um, a tattoo on their spirit, an evil tattoo on their spirit, that they would have to engage in the worst type of crimes against babies, that they would have to engage in that in order to enter into the world of appointments, of business contracts, of profits, illicit profits, of, yeah. And used to be, it would be other things, like engaging in homosexual acts or things like that. Before that, it would be in just affairs, um, engaging in affairs when you're married. And, those two, it spiraled down into this very dark um, hell. And here we are with a pipeline that screams only a very evil cult could require um, this type of pipeline, and it's big. And the person, besides uh, besides well, the people, besides the people that have been chipping away at this cult, okay, um, has been President Trump. I don't think that John of God would be in prison right now. I don't think that Elmaya would be, or El Chapo, or many, like right now, 39 other cartel leaders were extradited to the United States. Um, I don't think that Miss Universe would have been exposed. I don't think that Cesar Paneche's mansion would have been raided, which confirmed that they were siphoning oil from Pemex, from the people of Mexico. I don't think that that would have happened. That's why, and on and on and on and on. And I don't think we would have ever gotten the in the line of duty declaration. Um, I don't think so at all. Um, and there must be so many other things, but of course, the attacks are really the biggest evidence. The Walmart mass shooting, or Walmart shooting, the executions, this staged scene, just all of that just to silence what Richard was reporting on, that was corroborating President Trump's administration's objectives, and President Trump being really the major target um, to oust him, by tampering with the 2020 election. I was at January 6th. I understand what happened at January 6th. Um, I never planned on going there. It happened like by accident. We were rushing around, working all through the night to get all those prayer candles organized and the flyers. Um, God wanted us to go and to see it, and to be able to understand what happened there. And it was absolutely a plot against President Trump, um, to oust him. Why? Because his administration, his leadership was his administration that arrested Jeffrey Epstein, right? And we know, because of our, I know I'm very emotional right now talking about this, because of, you cannot even remember the Hempstead children without crying, okay? And what all they said. Um, and I will tell you this, because of our connection with the military and being Anglican, and I'll tell you a little story. So we, lived in Germany. We were living in Germany. Um, uh, Rob was working in Landstuhl, Germany, which is, I'm very familiar with Landstuhl, Germany. Uh, our second daughter was born there, and my mother is from Pirmasens, Germany. I went to school in Pirmasens, Germany when I was a girl for a couple years. I know that area very well. We uh, just by God's grace, we were there, um, and we attended St. Albans, a little chapel there on post at Launchville. And it was a very little chapel, okay, a little chapel, and we're a very little congregation, Episcopal congregation there, but very close knit. Um, and there's a lot of empty buildings up there on Launchstoel, which is the medical center that is being replaced by, I mean, it's this beautiful hospital, old hospital, but very adequate for what the American military needs, but yet they wanted to build this. They contracted for a $1 billion new hospital. $1 billion, y'all. Not like 100 million, not like 200 million. I mean, it was just, and for that small American community, it was weird to us, right? But anyway, so Rob, we were going to this little chapel, a lot of empty buildings, a lot of empty buildings on Ramstein, which has NATO on it. A lot of empty buildings on Volga Way, which is Army. Ramstein is Air Force. Plenty of places because it used to be a pretty big military community, and of course, it shrunk down. But it was our chapel, and I think other people have this same story, that was picked. Um, and I can tell you story after story about just trying to keep this service going, right? Just trying to keep this service going. And what um, people understand about liturgical services, um, the altar is very important to us. The tabernacle is very important to us. Um, and the army leadership decided to allow the satanic cult to use that little chapel for their service as well. And there, it wasn't like there was no other place to go because the Orthodox Christians were also in there, and they have also um, a lot of needs for their place of worship. And so the tampering of that chapel, a teeny chapel, I'm serious, teeny chapel, um, it was so disrespected. And what we knew was that something very dark had taken our military. And that was probably the number one reason why we didn't want Richard to join the military. Because a very dark cloud. Because, as we are tolerant, they're not tolerant for us. As we are respectful to others, they're not respectful to us. And this was a real stamp of a boot. It was really so disrespectful. I just can't even tell you. Um, and so we knew. So with the experience there in Ireland, and I don't want to go into that whole experience, and knowing that there is satanic cult in Ireland, and of course, in the military because of, it was right there in our face. And then of course the Hempstead children that wound up in California, just to let you know. Um, then all of this pipeline, there is no doubt. Oh, in January 6th, um, that this is about an evil cult that requires the worst type of crimes against little babies, of course, children, of course, pregnant women, crisis pregnancies, and that requires disposals. So, a very compromised funeral home, um, fraud, and then collecting on it. Um, what they did during 2020 with the whole Cobra strikes and making people mass, that's so satanic, right? It's so satanic. Because if you're in medicine at all, and this tells you that there are some really evil people in our medical field too. No mask could keep small particles, but I mean, I don't even believe in that stuff, but, um, none of it made sense. It was all a satanic cult and rituals that they were forcing upon the world. Um, I don't just believe that. The evidence confirms it. The evidence confirms it. And now we're getting to who they are and who these people are, who was behind the taking of our son's life and just the Walmart shooting. You have John Brian Crucius, who is Patsy's father, um, being in mind control. But don't forget that Lorraine Mayella was also in mental health. And so when you go through something traumatic like witnessing Alexander, whoever witnessed that or other things, then you seek out um, counselors, mental health. If the enemy is in that position, they can take witness statements and they can tamper with those records. So she's not a little player in this either. But to have her husband, Michael Mayella, and I'm not saying she did that, I'm saying she was in the position that is suspicious and that needs to be investigated. And with her husband, and and then her being in-laws with John Brian Crucius, all into mind control, with this connection with John of God, with this connection to Beto O'Rourke, and with Beto O'Rourke's connection with La Diabla and with Oprah, who was not just liking John the God, she was promoting him. She was working with him, okay? Working for him, for his whatever. Uh, so this is really something that, doesn't happen by coincidence. This is documented. And with Michael Mayella being the El Paso federal courthouse manager, and them keeping this quiet, right? Keeping this all quiet, not reporting on it, not bringing it into the hearings. Where were the lawyers? I mean, these were millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer funds spent on these lawyers, and not one of them said, hang on for a minute. We have a conflict of interest here. We have a conflict of interest with Lorraine Mayella, a conflict of interest with Michael Mayella Sr., conflicts of interest with Michael Mayella Jr., conflicts of interest with Alexis Mayella, because they are the family of John. That's why you never saw um, John Brian Crucius, right? He was too busy, with the wedding. he or he couldn't, they were keeping it quiet who he was and who he was connected to. um and of course, where that would all lead. But where were the lawyers saying, hold on a minute, we have a major conflict of interest here, and we have a false narrative. Patrick Crucius is not randomly, he did not randomly select El Paso. This is very clear that he has total support in the law enforcement, in the healthcare, in in the prosecutor's office, in the body of the investigators, because the FBI was investigating, and he was a cybersecurity tech trained hacker in the FBI there in El Paso. Michael Jr. was, and also at the Walmart cybersecurity, he was there working. So, um, eh, you know, eh, where were the lawyers? Where was the press? Because the press knew, because it was from the little hint in the press that was easily buried. But because of our son's case, we're uh, we're looking for things differently. And really, by the grace of God, you know, we learned about this. We learned about this. And so, really, if it wasn't for Team Find Richard Halliday, the public wouldn't know about the Mayellas. They wouldn't know. And it's huge because it just um, corroborates what the people already know. And that is that something really stinks when it comes to what happened at the Walmart, what happens in El Paso, and that they're covering up for the cartel criminal trafficking that's connected to the military and has this common denominator of a Mormon faction, and all together it is all about an evil cult. And this talk about nationalizing this, don't forget that Nadal Baim is a Palestinian arms dealer. This is not to nationalize anything. This is about an evil cult. And that requires um, a very evil pipeline. And that the ones that the evil cult, I think, might be called Trump derangement syndrome cult. And I'm not joking about that. I think that those that are like, I don't want this to be investigated, right? Why are you taking our protection away, meaning illegals, because the illegals are the ones they exploit. Especially, can you imagine? You can tell an illegal in this country, you don't do what we want you to do. We're going to turn you over. We'll come after you. Give us your kidney. Give us your kidney, right? Or give us your firstborn baby. Give us your, um, they can just exploit, give us sexual favors. We know that by sorority. Um, but, this is what the evidence is showing, that these millions of people that they brought into the country um, are just being exploited by this evil cult. And are some of them criminals or whatever? Yeah, and are some of them, do you feel sorry for them? Yeah, but they are vulnerable if they are illegally in the country. They are vulnerable to be victims of this evil cult. They need to be deported. They need to fill out the paperwork, and now the whole thing has been so ruined for so many of them that when they're deported, they're going to have a hard time coming back, right? They're going to have a hard time because the scrutiny is so much more, so much more. And because so much damage has been done with the bad intentions of letting out prisoners to join them. They were willing to exploit anybody, exploit people that were let out of mental health institutions, prisons, whatever, you know. And they were just making so much money off of the exploitation of illegal immigrants, illegal migrants, and Beto was down in Venezuela, telling them how to avoid legally, how to avoid or how to, become an illegal migrant in this country. He was in Venezuela pushing it. So, this evil cult absolutely profits off of exploiting illegal migration. And this kind of pipeline, uh, you can only explain it um, with the need of an evil cult. So I hope that makes sense. My mother, she got her citizenship in El Paso. I've told this story before. Um, we are a totally for melting pot and all of that. We're Americans, right? But doing it legally so that it protects the people in this country. They have to be protected, and they are targeted just like our volunteer sons and daughters are targeted in the military to be exploited, to be very, very badly treated. So that this evil cult, I guess, can um, that they can siphon the fuel, steal the weapons, the ammunition, the car parts, even Humvees, that they can just um, commit the most egregious crimes with impunity. And I would be really, really bad if I didn't absolutely put an exclamation on the 500,000 children that were trafficked through Fort Bliss on taxpayer dime. And the worst type of things happened to them in this emergency intake center, which is far different from what's going on right now. This 500,000, and that might be a low number in like what, 2 years, right? A little over 2 years. And where are they? And they're saying, "Oh, we have found some." Well, I hope that they're old enough now that they can be witnesses, that they can sing like birds about what was going on in that emergency intake center, because our witnesses, it was bad. It was very bad. And that does not show, these are unaccompanied minors, unaccompanied minors. And there wasn't a peep out of anybody about what was going on there, meaning this evil cult. And now, um, yeah, you know, I hope everyone knows what I mean. I hope everyone knows what I mean. So let me read the comments. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you for all your prayers and your love. And Danielle also, I know this is really emotional. It's emotional for me because Richard was reporting on it. He was reporting on what they were doing with children. He was reporting on the military's ties to the what happened there at the Walmart. Okay, and in the mall. Don't forget about the mall. And there's another location. Okay, because don't forget, this scene was staged. The death is real. The scene was staged, and there people are singing, and we got this huge congratulations today, right? This congratulations, you you did it, you did it, you broke this, that the Walmart scene was staged, and uh, that was never our goal, right? That was never our goal. It was God's goal, and that's what I'm saying. We have to give glory to God on that one. Um, our goal, we want our sons' remains. They're keeping them from us, and we want them. And the people there in Mexico should demand it, because what they are doing with that Plenitude crematorium investigation is a disgrace. It's a total disgrace. That Hargi and the Carlos Manuel Salas and it's just only an evil cult can describe why they would do what they're doing. It's just, and so I had to, of course, go and pull up some verses, uh, because the verses are a hedge around us, right? And Hebrews 10:30-31 says, "For we know him who said, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay.' And again, 'The Lord will judge his people.' It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." Yeah, that is such a comfort, right? Romans 12:19, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay,' says the Lord." And I've thought a lot about that. I thought a lot about that. And I'm like, okay, because through all of this, you just get so angry, and you've just got to control your anger, right? You got to control your anger, and you have to do things right. And the way you do things right is you apply what would God do, right? You apply. And I think, uh, that's how he works through us. And that's why I know we're going to get justice. So Psalms 37:12-13 says, "The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them, but the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming." And Isaiah 54:17 says, "No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord." Wow. Yeah, because what they do is they will project what they're doing onto other people. And you just cannot be like a flower. You have to really be strong. This is where the armor of God comes in. You have to be really strong. You cannot cower. You cannot cower in this circumstance. And what God is telling you is not to cower. These are all, to give you courage, to give you courage. Because Psalm 19:16-17 says, "The Lord is known by his acts of justice. The wicked are ensnared by the work of their hands. The wicked go down to the realm of the dead. All the nations that forget God." That is, yeah. Um, you make your little holes or your traps for other people, for babies, for children, whatever, you're going to fall in it. You're going to fall in it. You're going to ensnare yourself. And that is a lot of it gives a lot of courage through all of this and a lot of hope. Um, so finding that evidence, um, just like Nadal Baim, finding who he was, finding the Mayellas, um, all of this evidence that we have, finding out that the judges are all uh, imposters, finding out, it was Montoya was pretty easy, right? And Hicks, they're both usurpers. Um, Finding this stuff out was just, I hope that El Paso, it will make El Paso a better place to address and get accountability and get these wicked people out of their positions. And that's what we are absolutely fighting for legally, legally. And yeah, so thank you so much for sharing. The more you share, then you're on the team. You're on Team Farm Richard Halliday. The more you share, the more people know, the quicker the accountability will come. But the accountability is coming. Um, and and you see it. You see it because the way, if you look at the map, the way all the arrests are going, because you can't just bring it all down, right? Because then you have starvation, right? You need to secure that economy. You need to secure the money. You need to secure the food. You need to do this in a methodical way, and and that's what's been happening. It's just incredible. Um, so I hope it keeps on going like this. And your sharing means the world, and it keeps us all in check, right? It keeps us all in check. So thank you so much. And I want to read Lainey, thank you for all your prayers. And Lisa Northrup, let me read what she has to say. First, thank you for your son's service to our country and bringing this forward. He will be rewarded in heaven. Yes, the truth of all this evil will be revealed. Praying for strength and peace to you and your family. God wins. Thank you. And I think I'm going to end on that because that was absolutely beautiful. And thank you so much. Please share. Please get the notification bells.